Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be doing the hand trap tier list for the post-Banlist format. I realized that the format is growing, it's evolving, and it just started. It's official in 2 days time, and today, for example, Buenos Leon is happening. It's still under the last list, so some people were still preparing for Leon, and some people are starting to theorize the new format, but I still wanted to do the tier list because it feels almost like prediction. I wanted to share my thoughts with you guys about which hand traps I feel like right now at first glance of the format are going to be impactful. So please feel welcome to share your thoughts in the comments down below when it comes to all of these hand traps or whichever cards you will be preferring to play moving forward, whether that be hand traps or board breakers. So I sound a bit weird. I'm a tiny bit, I have a tiny cold, so hope that doesn't bother you. But yeah, the tiers are as per usual. And as the first card, we actually have an added Bistio, and the Ball Drake, since it came out in Photon Hypernova, is going to be added to the tier list. I think Bistios are still going to be good. And I'm also going to put the other Bistios in here. And I'll put Druid Swarm in here as well. But I feel like I'm going to have to squeeze a couple cards between Boldrake and Druid Swarm. I feel like Druid Swarm is a bit worse. Magnumut is the best one. Boldrake has a really good effect. And overall, Bistios, I feel like, are going to be an engine worth playing. It's going to be worth siding. Maybe not main decking, but even if you main it, it's still going to be nice against tier, which is still going to struggle and try to play. It puts big bodies against, like on the board against Sprite. However, you can also just side them out against Sprite, and if you decide to side them overall, you don't need to side them in. It's like, it's a bit more flexible. It's useful against branded Bistio, branded against Bistio Dragon Link. It's going to be very nice, and all in all, they're going to see play also because they are engines in those two decks. So I think they are still going to be good choices moving forward, especially if more light or dark decks become popular, like Joytron, Sky Striker, etc. So there's that when it comes to those Bistios. With Saronir, it's a bit different. I think it's only decent. As a hand trap, not as a Bistio. As a Bistio, it's probably among the top ones. Like, probably it's the best one because it sends Lobelion in its deck, in a Bistio deck. But if you play it as a hand trap, I don't think it's that great because it doesn't have a very strong secondary effect as opposed to other Bistios. Then this one is the new Sneaky Sea, Hiding Sea. I don't think it's worth it. It's the new card from Photon Hypernova, and basically it special summons itself face down, gets flipped face up in the end phase, and it can only be like special summoned that way when your opponent special summons a monster. So it's probably going to be during their turn, and then when it's flipped face up, it destroys all special summon monsters on the field. So you're summoning it, but you have, you're giving your opponent the option of dealing with the Sneaky Sea. So if they get rid of it, their monsters don't get popped, and I don't think it's that hard necessarily to deal with the one face down monster on the opponent's side of the field. So I don't think it's that great. I don't think it's worth playing. It might see play in a future format, but I just don't really see it right now. When it comes to Ash, I'll put it in Goated. And with Ash, I also want to adjust Impermanence. Both of them are very strong. And right now, I feel like because the format is only starting, that we should be playing more generic hand traps to cover more matchups. And Ash covers a bit more because it's negation of multiple things, not only monsters, as opposed to Impermanence or Veiler. And it's also, of course, amazing against branded in red. Against branded fusion, it's insane. It does a lot against branded fusion, and many people are going to be playing branded SPR right now. So there's that when it comes to Ash, and also it might see more play with Kashtira players trying to counter Book of Eclipse. So I think Ash is going to be insanely popular and also very impactful. And when it comes to Impermanence, it's just generic, amazing as the 6th card. It doesn't play into Talents or Tasking, which Ash does, but it's still worth it, I think, because Tasking is still one of those cards where people don't really know if they're going to be running it. And it can also be used to set Impermanence if you want. So I think Impermanence is very strong, and both of these cards are nice against Kashtira as well. So nothing more to say about them. I think they're goated, and Ghostbell is actually it's interesting. I think I'll place it in the good category because right now against tier, if you use Ghostbell like in the correct situation, I think you can just win. It's much easier to counter tier right now, and Ghostbell is going to be one of those cards that helps you. It's also nice against effects in the branded deck like Lobelion, Albion, branded in red, the trap cards. So I think it might not be as great and as generic as some of the top cards over here, but it's still going to be at least useful. It might get cut in the future. We'll see. Contact C, I don't think it's worth it. Just because it's not that hard to get rid of. And when it comes to Retaliating C, like, yes, Branded Fusion is a spell that special summons a monster, but they don't really care about their cards being banished in that sense. So I don't think Retaliating C is that strong, and there's not any other card that would, make it worth running. We're not exactly in a format where Shadow Fusion is seeing a lot of play. However, it might happen if it actually sees play in the tier deck. So I guess let's just keep an eye out and see what happens. Retaliating C is an option, but I don't think it's great right now. Then we have Psycho Reader, which always makes its way to the tier list, but it's never great. Judgment is going to become a bit better, but it doesn't make it worth running Psycho Reader, at least right now, or probably ever, for that matter. Then we have Chaos Hunter. I think I'll place this one in decent. I get that it has a ton of, impact against the Kashira deck, but there's downsides to it. First of all, there's a discard cost, which is not that great if you don't benefit off of it. It's also a body, so it's not that great against tasking compared to something like Lancia, which I think I'll put in decent as well, but a bit higher. Chaos Hunter can also be just taken control of and used by the Kashira player, which is not that great. So it does get outed. It's not exactly this body that's just unoutable, and it lasts for longer than Lancia, but Lancia doesn't put up a body, and it's like, in my opinion, Lancia might be a bit better, and it's also searchable in the Drychon deck, and Chaos Hunter is just, not as great. Then we have DD Crow. I think DD Crow is probably like top of decent. I don't feel like I want to put it in the good category just yet because the format is not exactly defined. And I'm saying all of this because it might be useful right now with tier like just struggling to play. You have a way of countering it, more ways of countering it because they have less tier names. However, it becomes a bit weird because to me at least, it doesn't seem as impactful as some other hand traps. And at one point, when you put in like Ash and Permanence, we're going to be covering Nibiru and Veiler as well. It just makes zero sense to play DD Crow as well, because I just don't feel like you have enough space. With the amount of cards, you also need to side against other matchups. So it's not bad. As a hand trap, just looking at it by itself as a hand trap, it's not bad. But maybe it won't see play just because there's not going to be enough space for it. And it's very similar with Skullmeister as well. However, I think I'll put Skullmeister at the top of not worth it because, like we always said, DD Crow can just be activated and banish its target, no problem. And Skullmeister needs to be chained directly to the effect activating, which by chain blocking and you preventing your opponent from using Skullmeister just makes it a bit worse. So there's that when it comes to DD Crow and Skullmeister. And Shifter, I think it's still very strong against Bestial Dragon Link. However, I think it should go in the good category a bit lower because some of the decks that are going to be strong right now can actually run Shifter. And if all of them are running Shifter, like what are you exactly countering with it? Kashira is running it, Thunder is running it, Swordstone can run it, Spray doesn't exactly struggle against it that much. Like it isn't as great anymore, which is very interesting because the card was insanely busted. But with players still trying to figure out tier, it's going to take a bit longer until tier sees more play, and then Shifter might consequentially see more play. And then we have Droll, which I think is top of decent, maybe even bottom of good. Like there is a ton of searching being done, and if you're trying to prevent your opponent from gaining advantage, it's not that bad, using Droll against Kashira. Tyr is doing some searching, Brandon is doing some searching, Flunder is doing some searching, like every single deck is searching. The Bestial Dragon Link is searching, like Drychon as well. Don't know if I mentioned it already, but with all of these decks having the option of being really good, I feel like Droll should be a card to look at and just keep at the back of your head, to keep in mind and maybe cite it if you feel like the format evolves to the point where it becomes really, really impactful, because I think it's strong and I think it has potential with decks searching as much as they do. Then we have Gamma. I think I'll put it in good just because right now I'm really on the side of generic hand traps. Gamma is not as great against Kashtira because it actually removes the body if you're negating something like, special summon unicorn effect or something like that. It removes the body, so it gives them more space to play their other cards, but it's still insanely generic and it can easily go into just a generic Synchro 8, which a lot of decks are going to be playing now. And I don't think it's exactly bad. However, if tasking sees more play, Gamma might go down in popularity because it doesn't exactly work well against tasking since it's a body. So speaking of generic hand traps, I think Veiler is going to be very important, and Nibiru as well. So those 5 would be my hand traps of choice, and a small Bestial package maybe. Veiler, in my opinion, is better than Mourner, but still worse than Impermanence, and Mourner should probably go somewhere down here, maybe bottom of decent. If you're trying to play more hand traps that negate monsters, sure, but Mourner can only be activated when your opponent special summons a monster, and is also much better in the OCG because of how their effects work. It's a bit different, so it doesn't make it as great as Veiler. And only on the special summon, Veiler is just infinitely better in my opinion. But if you're trying to play multiple, cards like these, Impermanence, Veiler, Mourner, then sure, but that's pretty much it. Nibiru, on the other hand, is going to be very strong. It's nice against Kashtira. It's also not bad against Branded, and even Tyr if you play it in the correct point in time, because Tyr is going to struggle a bit. And if they don't get to Rulkalas as fast, and you can't really expect people to try to play around Nibiru and many different things at the beginning of the format, because they're still trying to evolve their builds and make their builds worth something, and then they need to think about playing around Nibiru as well. It just might catch them a bit off guard and as a surprise. So again, one of the generic hand traps, which I feel like is going to be mostly impactful right now. And later down the line, it might still see play. But Kashtira players can actually play around it. Ibli is away. And if their builds sort of shift towards that, or even towards the adventure engine, Nibiru might not be as great anymore. So it's going to be interesting seeing how it actually does in the format. And then we have a couple Bra cards. If I'm honest with you, we have a couple Bra cards. Dogwood just doesn't seem worth it to me right now, and No Material as well. They are not strong enough. No Material was amazing. We all know a couple years back, but it really, to me, makes zero sense to play it right now. It's a bit too niche when you have other cards to cover certain matchups. And then the Herald, I'll just put it in Bra, with the Ashizo cards being limited and all, it's not as great anymore. It can still be played in Judgeshon, but it's still only at 1, so it's not a bad negation, but you know. And then we have Ogre. So Ogre is really interesting actually, because I'm sort of indecisive of where to put it. I might actually put it in decent, maybe over here, because it's not bad against Kashtira. You are taking away their body, so you're putting them on, okay, you need to have an extender, you need to have an additional card to summon. You are removing the body, just like with Gamma, but it's not bad against other stuff as well. For example, the adventure stuff, if it sees a lot of play, which probably it will with Plunder, maybe in Kashtira, with other decks as well, Ogre might become a bit better. It's not bad against the Thunderfield spell if you're trying to go into specifics. But we'll see how much play those decks actually see, and then we'll see if Ogre actually becomes more popular. I just wanted to discuss its power today, obviously, and I don't think it's exactly bad. So, think about Ogre. And then we have Phantasme, which is not going to be worth it right now. It's not exactly Phantasme's time. I'll just put it somewhere down here. Reaper, I'll put it at the top of not worth it, because it seems like if Kashtira gets hard countered by, there's a ton of cards that counter Kashtira already, but if people try to play Reaper as well, because playing a Rise card in the extra deck is not that bad, because if you're trying to play cards the take control, change of heart, enemy controller, whatever it may be, if you're trying to take cards from your opponent, you can just summon your own Arise card, because Shangri-La had to have activated its effect this turn, and it can be their Shangri-La. So if you're playing a Rise card anyway, you might play Reaper as well, to prevent them from playing or play another target. I don't know. To me, Reaper is it's very interesting. Maybe think about it, but it still doesn't seem worth it, at least right now, because it becomes better when formats are a bit more defined. And when it comes to Token Collector, it's probably not worth it still. I'll put it like somewhere here, maybe. Source Code is going to be quite nice, but not as strong as it used to be when we were playing Token Collector, and with the adventure stuff, we're still not sure how much play it's actually going to be seeing, and it's also a body, so it's not as great against tasking. So yeah, I feel like that works. I like the tier list. I think I'm satisfied with it. It's weird, obviously, with the format just starting, trying to speculate and all of that, but I like it. I like it a lot. I like, theorizing and thinking about the format. So if you enjoyed this video and if you have any thoughts on my particular tier list, please let me know. And of course, like the video if you liked it, sub, and check out all the social media. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.